Hey, what's up guys? So I just want to do a little quick video of how I edit my photos. Some people have asked me how I get certain colors in my photos. So yeah, we're gonna hop into Lightroom and I'll show you how I do all of that. Alright, so we're in Lightroom right now. So today we're gonna be editing two photos. One is this photo of some fall foliage. And the second one is of my worship leader at church. So I'm just gonna walk through how I go about editing my photos and the process that I go through. Alright, so first thing that I like to do is I like to enable profile corrections. So what that does is it helps remove any kind of warping in the photo, any type of maybe the building is curved, depending on the lens that you use. So that helps get rid of that. Next I like to do is remove chromatic aberration. So what this does is when you shoot directly into sunlight or you have really bright spots in your photo, you might see some of pinkish or greenish tinge around the edges. So this gets rid of that. Alright, so in my photos, I like to have a orange and teal look. So how I go about doing that is actually down here in camera calibration. So I will adjust my red primary to 50 and my blue primary to -100. Boom. So now we have that orange and teal look. Pretty simple. So for this photo, I don't really want to go that extreme with it. I'll probably do like a 35 and -75. That looks pretty good to me. Alright, now I'll adjust my exposure. Exposure looks fine. Probably up my contrast. Highlights, I do want to push my highlights out a bit. Highlights are basically the brightest parts of the photo. Shadows are mid-level dark parts. Whites, mid-level bright parts, and then blacks, the darkest parts of the photo. Shadows, I'll up those. Whites as well. I do want to make the darker spots really dark, so I'll bring down the blacks. Clarity, this just helps make the photo sharper or crisper. Personal preference up to you, like how much you want to use. I usually stay around 10 to 15 range. Vibrance just adds more color to your photo. Also adds some brightness to the color as well. For this one I usually stay around 10. Saturation basically gives more color to the photo. For this one I also stay around 10. Alright, so now the tone curve. So this part is actually pretty interesting. So this is where you can actually play around with the dynamic range of your photo. So for example, this top right quadrant actually. This is where you control the highlights and the whites. So you can actually blow out your highlights or not have any at all. And in this bottom left hand corner, this is the blacks and the shadows. What I like to do actually is give my photos a bit of a faded look. So how I do that is actually by grabbing this point at the bottom of the right hand corner and raising it up. So you can see the photo's starting to get a little faded out. I like to give it around a 10%, so I leave it about there. Not too much, but just enough where you kind of notice it. After that, this is where you get to adjust each of the individual colors. So you can adjust the reds, oranges, yellows, blues, and so on. This is really useful, especially for color correction, or you want to manipulate the colors a little bit. So in this case, I want to make my leaves a little bit more red. So I'll bring it down a bit, give it some more saturation, maybe I'll brighten up the color a little bit too. Basically luminance helps increase the brightness of the color. That looks pretty good to me. I'm not going to touch any of the other colors. Split toning. So this is where you actually get to kind of get your own style in the photo. You can color the brightest parts, the highlights, a certain color. For me personally, I like to leave it a neutral. Shadows, coloring the mid-levels, of the photo a certain color. This is where I actually like to use, I do actually like to color shadows, so what I usually do is I actually color this orange color. Give it like a little warmer feel to the photo. And that looks pretty good. Sharpening, pretty straightforward. You just sharpen the photo. I don't use it too much. Noise reduction, this is good when you're shooting at night. You might get some grain in your photos. This helps get rid of that. And yeah, post-crop vignetting, so you can make the photo either really dark around the corners or really bright. I don't touch this one, personal preference as well. Cool, I think this looks pretty good to me. But what I kind of want to do is actually color this road. I want to make it look like a golden brick road. So how I'm going to do that is grab my brush here. Fun tip, if you press the O key and you draw around the photo, it shows you what you're actually coloring. So that's really, really helpful, especially when I'm trying to be really precise. Like if I'm doing portraits and I'm trying to whiten someone's teeth, this really helps, so I know what I'm coloring. Okay, nice. So how I'm going to make this warmer is I'm actually going to increase the temperature. So the temperature increases like the yellows, oranges, and reds. Blue, more blue, basically. Yeah, that looks good to me. Boom, and we're done. Before and after. Alright, moving on to the next photo. So this is the photo of our worship leader Danny. So what I'm going to do first is actually I want to correct this because it's a little slanted. So there we go, straighten that out. Nice. Again, enable profile corrections, remove chromatic aberration. Now I'm going to add my color scheme that I like. And maybe I'll put some green in there too. Cool. Alright, adjusting my exposure. Contrast, I do want some contrast in there. I will up my highlights. Shadows, I want there to be more shadows because right now, so the people in the photo, you can still see them kind of clearly. I don't really want your attention to be looking at them. I want the attention to be on the subject, which is Danny. So what I'm going to do is try to up the shadows, bring down the shadows so like they're darker, so you don't really look at them. They're more of a frame for the subject. Up my whites, and I'll bring down my blacks. Cool, we're getting there. Next, I'm going to up my clarity. Again, 10, 10. Where are my saturation and vibrance? I'm going to add my fade. Awesome. So in this instance, this is where like adjusting the colors individually is really helpful. So as you can see, Danny's pretty orange like the background, and I don't really want that. So what I'm going to do for the oranges, I'm actually going to bring down the saturation. Oops. Bring down the saturation, I'm going to up my luminance. Maybe I'll bring it down even more. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So got rid of that orangey, too much orange in there, so now it's more of a natural color. Alright. Split toning, I'm not really going to change anything here. But sharpening, okay, so this is where, this is something that's pretty useful. If you press down the Alt key, it says Reset Sharpening. So what you can do, if you click on this masking tool, it shows you what's basically really sharp in the photo. So you can add a layer of like softness to the photo, so you could choose kind of choose what you want in the photo to be really sharp. In this case, I really want Danny to be the sharpest one in the photo, so I'm gonna mask out everything except for his outline. So I'm gonna drag this down. Nice. Boom. So now you can see like the rest of the people here, they're a little bit they're like softer, so not as sharp, but Danny is still pretty sharp. And that's it. Pretty fast, pretty easy. Before and after. Before and after. Alright, and there you have it, guys. Pretty straightforward. If you like this video, feel free to let me know. Yeah, I just basically wanted to show you how I go about editing my photos. Thanks for watching, guys.